Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron. Today we're going to get back on Project Dirty, and with any hope before the end of this video we'll do a first startup. That's my plan. Got to install the radiator, button up a little bit of wiring, put spark plug wires on, hook up throttle cables, kick down cables, put the drive shaft in, put the electric fans on the radiator and wire those in. I think that's about it to get it running. So put power steering pump and the belts on. I got to make a couple brackets. I don't have upper radiator mounts for it, and I haven't had a lot of luck finding used ones, and we don't want to wait to get new ones, so I'm going to make something that'll work. And I got to make one piece of the bracket for the power steering pump because it's missing. When I got the power steering pump in the bracket, that piece wasn't there. Somebody left it on the motor that the bracket came off of or something. So I'm gonna do that, and we'll let's get started. First thing I'm gonna do is get started on mounting the radiator. I'm gonna get the fans installed on the radiator, get the radiator set in the truck, and probably zip tie it in place or something like that, and then we can start making some mounts for the top of it. So here we go. Okay, I got my radiator here and my electric fans. Electric fans come with the mounts to mount them to the radiator. So I'm going to get them both out of the box, make sure that they fit. These are 12-inch electric fans. Doesn't really matter how you put these on. I usually kind of stagger them, one at the top, one at the bottom. But you can put them right next to each other, however you want. I just like to do it like this. I think it looks better. So they're definitely going to fit. Next thing I need to do is find out which way these are wired, or which way these are set up, because if you wire these up, it's saying that blue is your negative, black is your positive. But the fan blades can be flipped either way. So if you just take electric fans, put them on there and wire them up, it might be pushing air instead of pulling. And if you put them on the back side of the radiator, you don't want it pushing toward the front, because then the air coming in as you're driving and the fan pushing air, it just kind of stops the air and there's no air movement, and it'll overheat on you. Now you can just, the way you get it to spin the other way is just to reverse the polarity, and you'd make your blue wire hot and your black wire your ground, which will make the motor spin the other way, and they're designed to do that, so that'll be fine. Now, the angle of the blades on the fan are angled a certain direction, so the way this one's set up with the blade angle, the fan's meant to turn this way. So if that's pushing and not pulling, and I reverse the polarity and make the fan go this way, then I'm not getting the cup of the blade to really grab the air and pull it the way I want it. So you can take this nut off, flip the fan around, put it back on so that it's going in the right direction. So I'm going to take my power probe and put power to these and make sure they got them going the right way. Okay, I'm just going to take my fan. Both of these fans are identical, so if I test one, they should both be the same. But I don't want to take that chance, so I'm going to go ahead and test both of them. Hopefully this fan don't hit this box. It shouldn't, or it'll hit the radiator. Okay, so it's spinning the right way because it's pushing air out, but the fan blade is backwards. Sorry guys, I'm confusing myself. Yeah, it's actually pushing. And we want it to pull, because I don't want to put the fans in front of the radiator. So if we reverse our polarity, now it's going the right way. But our fan blade's still backwards. So we're gonna have to flip that fan blade around. And I'll double check this one. It should be the same. Yeah, it's the same. That's actually, no, the blades are on the right way when it turns that way. No, they're not. They're still backwards. Okay, so there's an arrow on the fan which way it's supposed to turn. It's supposed to turn this way. And it's turning this way. So we gotta take them off and turn them around. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip these over and then we'll move on. Okay, now the fan's spinning the right way. Yep, now we got it the right way. Okay, so we'll do the same thing with the other one, and then we'll start mounting them. Okay, so these were designed to be pusher fans. We just made them pull fans, and they'll be fine. I've done it lots of times. It doesn't hurt anything. Electric motor, you can reverse the polarity. It'll run just as long in either direction, so it'll be good to go. Here we got our fan mounting kit. Comes with these push through kind of zip tie deals. The catches for the other side, and then this foam, and it's got springs in it. I always forget where the springs go. Maybe it'll tell me in here. Yeah. There's supposed to be mounting tabs that slide onto the fan, but there's none. So I guess you just use the holes. I can make this stuff just a little bit smaller. I don't think I could read it with glasses on. Okay. So you got these foam pads. They cut a hole in the middle of them for you, but it's never pushed through. And they usually are still somewhat attached and hard to get out. I got an adhesive back on them. So you take your fan, you grab one of your wire tie deals, the spring goes on like so, that goes into the fan. Put a foam pad on there. You got to stick the pads onto the fan first. I forgot that part. Otherwise, you get one thing secured, you can't get the fan up to get the pads in. I like to run my wires down to the bottom of the fan because you don't see them as much. So we'll do that. Get my fan placed about where I want it. Grab my deal with the spring on it, and you just carefully push it through the pins, or through the fins in the radiator. Grab a second one. Do the same thing. And then these retainers here, you push them on. Pull them not super tight, but so you can feel that there's tension against the spring. Just like that. Do the other two, and I'll put the other fan on, and then we'll get ready to put the radiator in. Okay, I got the radiator set down in the truck and temporarily zip tied in place. I'm going to build my own mounts for it because I don't have the original mounts from the truck, and I haven't had much luck finding them. I know they're out there, I know I can order them, I know I can find them, but by the time you get them and pay for them and all that stuff, it's just as easy to make some. So I'm going to make some mounts for the radiator, but I still have the truck jacked up because I was working underneath it. Finally got the right drive shaft, got it in, and got the shift linkage hooked up for the transmission, speedometer cable, all that stuff underneath. And but I still have to run tranny cooler lines and my vacuum line for my vacuum modulator on my transmission. So I'm gonna make my own. I bought some brake line that's the right size. I'm gonna make my own tranny cooler lines, and I'm gonna make my own hard line to come up for the vacuum. So I'm going to do that while it's jacked up. I'll try to video a little bit of making the tranny cooler lines, and then we'll set it back down on the ground where I can reach in there better, and then we'll make our radiator mounts and finish buttoning some other stuff up. Make the tranny cooler line. I got these 5/16 72-inch long brake lines, and they got the right ends on them to thread into the transmission and the radiator. So what I'm going to do is crawl underneath the truck and get a rough measurement of what I'm going to need to come from the transmission up to this cross member down here. And then I'll kind of put my bend that I need for back there in it, and then I'll come up here and I'll just bend it up to where I can get my line in. And then once I get it up here, I should be able to kind of bend it and get it to where I need it. Right here to go into the radiator. So I'm going to crawl underneath and take some measurements, see about how long I need them to be, and then we'll get started. Transmission had some leftover line on it that somebody cut whenever they pulled it out, or whatever they pulled it out of. So I got my measurements, but I'm going to go ahead and take my little bender and try to put this bend on the ends so that I know that just to make it easier once I get it up in there, they'll already be bent. And then I got my measurement also, so I can get them put up in there. I've got this little brake line bender. I like to do it by hand. I'll see if this is like copper zinc line, I think is what it's called. I don't know, it's a brake line, but I'll see how it bends by hand, and if it doesn't, then we'll use that little bender. Just a little thought. Always make sure you got your threaded end on your brake line down at the end before you start bending, because once you bend it, they won't slide back to where they need to be. And it's really irritating when you got to straighten your brake line back out to get the end back out to the end where you need it. Okay, that's pretty close. Now I know my measurement needs to be from the very end of those lines up to where I'm going to have to bend it to get around the cross member up here. Has got to be about 44 inches. So I'm going to take those and kind of hold them at the angle they're going to need to be at to hook up to the transmission. And then I'm going to measure them down my 44-inch measurement, and I'm just going to kind of bend almost a 90 on them, like maybe a 80 or something like that. And that way I should be able to tuck them down in there, get them where I need them, and then I can come in here and just kind of bend them to follow where I want to follow and get up to where they're going to hook up. And then I'm going to have to cut them and flare them. But once I get to that point where I bend them and get them where I need them to be, and I can cut them, take them back out, or at least try to, or just flare them in the truck here, which won't be a big deal either. So I'm going to take my measurement, get those bent, and then we'll feed them down in there the best that we can. I think we got a good angle that we can get down in there. So I'm gonna kind of get those run. First I gotta clean my hands up, so give me a minute and then we'll do that. Okay, we're gonna take these, kind of get a rough measurement here. Thing about these is I'm not gonna get them perfect the first try, and but they bend pretty easy, so, and I may have to do some jogging in here to get them to fit good, but I can do that once they're already in there. Trying to be really careful so I don't bend it too much in one spot and get a kink in it. You want to kind of work your way around. But now I got my 90, I got my end bent where it's going to go up on the transmission. So I'm going to try to walk this down in here, just like that. And then I'll do the same thing on the other one. And then now what I'm going to do is get back under there and I'll hook them up to the transmission, because that way I'll make sure they're okay, and it'll give them a little bit of rigidity because they're held in a certain spot down there, and that way I'll be able to bend them better up here. So I don't know how easy it's going to be by myself, but I'll get under there and see what I can do about getting them hooked up. I got them all hooked up down there, and up where they I bent them a little bit out of the way where they'd make it so you could get the starter in and out easy, and go up over the engine cross member good. So now I'll just fine tune this here and get them where I need them. So I need my bend right here, and it's going to need to be about 2.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and make a mark on it, and then I cut it there and work with it in the car. Okay, I got that marked. I'll get my tubing cutter, cut it, flare it. We'll do the same thing with the other one. I'll get in there and put some clamps on them to kind of hold them in place. You want them to be able to move a little bit. You don't want them to be too rigid, but you want them to be fairly rigid. So hopefully that makes some kind of sense. But the factory ones don't have any clamps at all that hold them to anything. They just screw onto the transmission, screw into the radiator, and then they got like a little metal clamp that holds them together. So I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do yet. I don't think I want to secure them. I don't want to secure them to the frame because the motor and trans will move a little bit, but the radiators, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll let you guys know, and I'll show you when I get it done. I got my tranny cooler lines done, and I'll show you guys those real quick. I got them all bent, cut, reflared, hooked up. I ended up taking P-clamps and just putting one around each wire with a small bolt in it to hold them. They're pretty nice and rigid. I can bounce them around. They don't hit anything. Let me grab a flashlight and I'll try to take you underneath and show you what I did under there. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see, but so I ran them down, left the room to get the starter out, put another set of P-clamps there, and they don't touch anything, and they're bent real clean, and they hook up to the transmission. I'm real happy with the way they turned out. I think that's the last thing that I need to do underneath, so now I can go ahead and get the truck off the jack stands and lower it back down where I can reach in it better without standing on my tippy toes and stuff. So I'm gonna lower it down and we'll get started on making radiator mounts. Finally got her back down to civilization where I don't have to stand on my tippy toes the whole time to work under the hood, which is nice because my calves are starting to burn a little. But so I showed you earlier, I got my radiator just kind of zip tied in here. There's threaded holes right here and here that the original mount's mounted to. So I'm going to go ahead and use those, and I got a piece of 1/8 inch by 1.25 inch angle iron, and I'm going to take it and put a mark and I'm going to cut 2 of these, and then I'll get my holes marked out, and I'll drill this, put it on here, and then I'm going to make another piece that's going to curl over this to hold it back, and then I got some rubber that I can put in there so it's not metal rubbing on the radiator. So I'm going to cut 2 of these pieces, and then we'll figure out how we're going to mark our holes on them. Okay, what I'm going to do here, I cut my piece of angle. Like I said, I'll mark it for my holes, and then I cut another narrow piece that's quite a bit bigger than this, and I'm going to weld that up solid, and then I'll put a little gusset. I got my hands out of the way, you guys could probably see. I'm going to weld that together like that, and then I'll put a gusset from here to here so it's got strength pushing down on it, and then once I bolt it into here and put some rubber in there, it'll be tight. So I got stuff cut for 2 of them. I got to clean this up, weld it together, and obviously I'm not just going to stick a piece of square angle iron on there all around the edges, clean it up, make it look pretty, whatever. But that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to mark my holes, get them drilled, and then I'll weld these together, and then I'll come back and show you guys what we got. Okay, it's a new day for me and a new week. And when I left off Friday, we were working on the radiator mount. And I struggled with it Friday afternoon, and I thought about it all weekend, and I scrapped the idea that I was going with and came up with a new idea. I'm gonna leave the original idea in the video because not everything works out the first time, and rather than just scrapping all that out of there and saying, oh hey, look at this mount I built, I just want to show you guys that sometimes it takes 2 or 3 times to get what you want. So the other idea that I had of using the stock location and making a mount that was kind of similar to the stock one, we scrapped that. So I thought about it all weekend. I came in this morning all hyped up, ready to make a radiator mount, and didn't even turn a camera on. So I came up with this. Obviously it's not done. I still gotta sand it straight and smooth and round corners and stuff like that. But this is gonna sit right here, centered in the radiator. And then it's gonna bolt to the back of the core support right there. And we're gonna have a nice clean looking radiator mount in the middle of the radiator so it doesn't, a lot of times with the stock ones, if you don't get like the exact stock style radiator cap. Some of the aftermarket ones get in the way and stuff like that. So with this being over there, it'll be completely out of the way of everything. I'm going to put some rubber spacers in between the clamp and the radiator, and I'm going to put some rubber spacers between the mount and the core support, and that way it'll allow the radiator to move a little bit so it's not rigid and breaks or anything. But that's what we got going on now. I'm going to finish that up, and then I'll show you guys the progress when I'm done. I got the upper radiator mount that I made cleaned up, finished up, and painted. It's over there drying now. So while it's drying, I'm going to go ahead and wire in the electric fan controller. So I'm going to take this and mount it right up here. And then by the time you put the grill and all that back in, you won't see it. And I got this hole right here that runs through where I can hook my wires up, and I'll bring my wires from my fan down out one of these holes down here and bring them up so they won't be real obvious, kind of just make it look cleaner. So we're going to go ahead and get this mounted. These are, some of these, depends which ones you get. This one has a dial where you can set your temperature of when you want your fan to come on. Some of them are just like preset, pre-regulated, so they turn your fans on at say 180 degrees. This one's adjustable, so I want to make sure I leave the adjuster where I can get to it. Once I set it, it's going to be set and it's just going to work there forever. So I just want to make it to where I can fairly easily get to it to set it initially, and then you should never have to mess with it again. So if you do, you just have to pop the grill out and do it. You can mount these pretty much wherever you want to, as long as this gray wire right here has the probe on the end of it, and that goes into your radiator. So to get the temperature to tell the fan when to turn on and off. So as long as you're close enough that this will reach, it doesn't really matter where you put it. Another reason put it up here is because I can run this probe over, put it in through the back side of the radiator, and then when you're looking at the engine compartment, you won't just see a wire going over with a probe sticking in the radiator. So I like to put them up towards the top. You get a good temperature reading there. Doesn't really matter where you put them. So I'm going to go ahead and, you got to be careful when you do this because you just push it in through the fins, but you don't want to tear the fins up real bad. And just stick that in there like that, and then once I get all the wiring done, I'll tie that wire up. And I think there's a deal that kind of helps hold that in there, but I may be wrong. So this is made for 2 fans. These fused links here, one goes to the battery. I gotta double check, it's been a while since I've done one of these. I don't remember exactly how they wire up, but let me get my bearings straight and then I'll bring you guys back and show you what I'm doing. I got this all sorted out. A red wire is going to go straight to battery power. My black wire is going to go straight to ground, which I'm going to run it through and ground it with my headlights. Blue and orange go to the fan motors. Green is AC trigger, so if you're running AC, which we're not right now, but will be in the future, so I'm going to tie this wire up out of the way somewhere. And yellow is your ignition wire, so I'm going to run it along with the headlight harness, take it in the cab, and put it in the fuse box. So I'll get that done real quick. Alright, I kind of got a little carried away. I was planning on just wiring in the fans and then moving on to the next thing, and I started wiring the fans, and then I noticed some other wiring, and then I noticed some more wiring. Then I wanted to put the radiator mount on because I wanted to make sure that the radiator was in its final resting place before I wired the fans. So basically, I spent the entire rest of my workday today getting the fans wired in, but I did a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and either way, new radiator mounts all painted and dry and installed. Put little rubber grommets behind where it mounts to the core support and where it mounts to the radiator, so it's got a little room it can move. I got my fans wired in, loomed up, tied up. I got all the headlight wiring completely routed and finished. I got everything in here. This is all loomed up and tied down and everything else. Got rubber grommets going through the core support down there and up here where the battery goes. Got it all covered and tied up here. Got my grounds getting ready here. We got our Deutsch connector put in for our heater wires over here. Got all this retaped and mounted. Put the vacuum line on for my PCV valve. It's a bunch of little stuff. I don't even remember it all. But made quite a bit of progress. Didn't film much. I'm just doing a lot of the little stuff that needs to be done that kind of boring to watch. So I'll come back in the morning. Sorry, I'm thinking. I think if we check the fuel tank, hook the fuel lines up, spark plug wires, radiator hoses, and belts, and put the power steering pump in, and then we should be able to start it. We're gonna start this truck tomorrow, and I'm gonna film it. So we'll see you in a few. I know some of you guys like it when I film everything, all the work I'm doing and all that, instead of just talking, but I just buckled down and tied up a lot of the loose ends so we can keep this project going. I want to try to get this thing running this video. So we got the power steering pump on, got the belts on, got the hoses on, got the fuel hooked up, heater hoses, got quite a bit of just a bunch of little stuff. It's stuff that it's time consuming, but it's not really spectacular, you know, just, oh, put this hose on, tighten the clamp down. So that's all done. All we really got left to do is put the spark plug wires on, and we should be able to try to fire this thing up. But first, I got this aftermarket coolant overflow reservoir, because the original coolant overflow that we took out of here was destroyed. So I'm gonna take this reservoir and mount it right here. But I only have the mounting points at the top, And being that it's plastic, I don't want it to be real flimsy. So what I'm doing is, I got this piece of 16 gauge steel. I'm gonna trim it out to match the back of the tank, and then I'll be able to put a bolt at the bottom, and then I'll bolt through the top into the core support, and that'll make it more rigid. So I'm just gonna cut this out, clean it up, and then we'll paint it. And then we can mount that reservoir and get that done. So I'm gonna finish that up. I'll put the spark plug wires on and get them routed, and then let's see if we can't get this thing to fire up. Okay, I got everything wrapped up to try to start it. Got my coolant overflow jug that I made the bracket for installed. You can kind of see the bracket back here. It's pretty stiff. Put nutserts in the core support, so I could just screw it in, and then I just put a bolt in the third hole in the bottom and bolted it to that bracket. It worked out good. And I got it hooked up. I got all the fluids topped off and full. They're good to go. The only thing I got left to do is hook up the positive battery cable, and then we can try to start it. So I'll go ahead and hook that up, and we'll turn the key and see what happens. Okay, I made sure my key was off. I'm gonna go ahead and hook this up and make sure we don't get any sparks or smoke or anything like that. Kind of checking my wiring here at the same time. If I start to see smoke barreling out of something somewhere, I probably didn't do something right. So far so good. I don't see any smoke, I don't smell anything. Alright, we'll let that sit for a minute. Make sure nothing starts getting hot. And just tightening the distributor down a little bit more. I want to be able to move it, but I don't want it to move on its own. Should be good there. Alright, I'm going to give it a minute, let it sit and make sure nothing crazy happens, and then we'll hit the key. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention is I took vacuum caps and capped off all the vacuum ports in the intake and on the carburetor. I did that because I don't want to have any vacuum leaks, obviously, because it won't start to run right. And second, I don't know if this brake booster is any good. I don't know if the module valve in the trans is any good. I don't know if the vacuum expansion canister is leaking or anything like that. So if I just cap everything off so there's no vacuum accessories being used, then I should have a better shot at it. So I'm going to set the choke. It's been sitting here, nothing smoking, everything seems good. I'm going to go hit the key and see if it turns over. If it does, I'm going to crank it a little bit and see if I can get it to suck up some fuel and get it in that fuel filter. Alright, well, I hit the key and it didn't do anything. So something is not right. Gonna check and make sure I got power where I'm supposed to have power, and then we'll try again. Okay, well, I got her to crank. I found a bad fusible link. Well, it's not a fusible link, it's the wire before the fusible link. So there's the two ends of it. And then in the center, there's nothing. Wire was just gone. That was keeping me from getting power to my fuse box. So I fixed that, and the brand new starter that I had just put in would kick the Bendix out, but it wouldn't spin. And it wasn't a shim issue or anything like that. I took it off the truck, tested it, just a bad starter. So I went and got another one, put it on, and it still didn't seem like it wanted to crank. So I added a ground. I had the ground going from the battery to the frame, battery to the core support, engine block to the cab, which is pretty much factory what they have for grounds. Sometimes they go from the battery straight to the alternator bracket, but I've had issues with that not making a good ground. So I made another ground that goes from my frame ground down to the block. Now my frame and my engine are both grounded directly to the battery. So that battery's been sitting for a while and it's a little low. It cranked good, but not great. And as soon as I started cranking it, it pulled fuel up almost immediately, so that's good. And the timing should be close. So I'm gonna let that battery charge for a couple minutes, and then we're gonna hit the key on camera. And it hasn't started yet. I haven't cranked it up. I hit the key and made sure it cranked over, and it did. And from my trials and tribulations of finding out why it didn't want to crank, I know I've got power to the coil and everything else is working right. It had me questioning myself for a minute, because I was like, dang, I've done a whole bunch of these wiring harnesses. Did I do something wrong? Like, that's not normal for me, but you know, we all have bad days or whatever. So I was tracing everything down, checking everything, and I'm like, man, everything's working like it's supposed to. What the heck is going on? And then the fusible link was bad. I found that out pretty quick because I wasn't getting power to my fuse box. And then the starter was just clicking, and I crawled underneath with my little push button and hooked it up and saw that it was popping out but not spinning. Dealt with all that, but I've got power everywhere I need to have power. I have power going to everywhere I need power. I have power coming back, or you know, I've got power everywhere there's supposed to be power. Everything's working. It's cranking now. We're gonna give it a few minutes and we're gonna try to fire this thing up. So here we go. All right, we're going to crank this thing over and see what happens. Got fuel in my fuel filter, but apparently I don't have anything in the carb yet. So crank it over a couple times, see if we can't fill the carb up. Got fuel in the carb now. There we go. Alright, got our choke set. Take a little bit of timing away, see what happens. If it does fire up, it's going to be loud because it's open headers, so I'll go ahead and let you listen to the music of my people for a minute, and then I'll cut the volume. And apparently the distributor's 180 out, or I'm just really far off. We'll try that first. Yeah, the distributor's 180 out. I'll go ahead and fix that real quick and we'll try it again. Alright, I swapped the distributor 180. See what happens now. Fired right up that time. Got a little bit too much timing in it. Or maybe my throttle's just off because the choke's on. I can't let it run long because there's no ventilation in here. I don't have no doors or nothing open. Got everything in the engine compartment pretty well buttoned up, and she runs. Fired right up. Just distributor was 180 out, which happens every once in a while. This motor wasn't on top dead center when I got it. I put it on top dead center. I didn't assemble it, so not making excuses. I just put the distributor in out. So we'll I gotta adjust the timing, tune it, let it warm up, all that kind of stuff, but I gotta wait till it's a nicer day outside and I can have the doors open to do that. But it runs, sounds alright, which it should. It's a rebuilt motor, and everything that we did seems to be okay. I don't see any leaks, anything like that, so I'm pretty happy. Alright, well, as you can see, it's a little smoky here in the shop. That's why I didn't let it run too long. I didn't want it to smoke this whole place out, because it's not necessarily cold outside, but it's wet and raining. There's some stray dogs running around, so I didn't want to open the doors. And I basically just wanted to make it start. I got everything engine-wise done. I still got to clean up spark plug wires and route some other wires a little better, stuff like that. But I wanted to make sure it was going to run and everything was right. And I want to set the timing so I know where the distributor is going to be sitting exactly before I tidy up the spark plug wires, because there's nothing worse than getting them in there close and then tying them all up, and then you got to turn the distributor and it starts pulling everything tight and pulling spark plug wires up against headers, and you got to redo everything. And so I got to tidy those up, tidy up a couple wires, recheck, top off all the fluid, set the timing, you know, stuff like that. But that's it. Dirty runs. I'm happy, I know, because it's been quite a ways to get here. Not so much a lot of work, just quite a ways getting parts and all that kind of stuff. But stuff we got left to do on this one, I got to clean up and repaint the headlight buckets. I'm putting all new headlight adjusters and springs in there with all new headlights. Clean up the grill and headlight doors, put them in. They have carpet ordered. Somebody bought this carpet, and I can't say for sure, but I don't think it was a kit for this truck. I think they just got a roll of carpet and tried to make it work, and it didn't. So they ordered new carpet for it. That's supposed to be coming, and I'm waiting on it because I don't want to put the seat in until the carpet comes, because what's the point of bolting the seat in just to have to take it back out again to put the carpet in? So front end, headlights, horns, grill and headlight doors got to go on. Carpet, seat, and then we're gonna give this thing a bath and buff and see how good of patina we can make it. So, but I appreciate you all watching the video. Please like, subscribe, comment. I enjoy the comments, whether they're positive or negative, and I read them all and respond to every single one of them. If I haven't responded to you when you left a comment, I must have missed it and I apologize, but subscribe. That's going to do it for this video, so y'all have a good one and we'll see you next time.